Gillian Johnston at last. Oh my
Glennis, I missed you.
Oh, I know, my goodness. What a palaver to get on this machine sometimes. But anyway, can I just say you're worth waiting for and you look
I know.
absolutely stunning. You are glowing.
It's the herbal tea, I promise you.
No, you look absolutely amazing. So
Thank you
for joining me today. And
Pleasure.
I have been thinking so much about you because you were absolutely instrumental in helping me with my very first hand fasting last week.
Oh, Glennis, I was so happy for you.
Honestly, thank you. And first of all, I want to ask, why are you so generous?
Because life's too short to be anything else. No, honestly, I'm here. One of the reasons you're a celebrant is because you want to help and to serve, right? Now, you know exactly where you're coming from your skills working in homes and bringing pleasure to people. It's the same thing. You want people to have the day that's going to be magical for them. And there's no point in me trying to withhold. There's too many people do that. And I'm going to advise you right now, I have got a gazillion cats and I've got my familiar who's desperate to get born. But the way that you grow and you improve what you're doing is to share what you're doing, because you get feedback and you can only follow your own truths. And if I can see something that I feel that you could take a wee bit more and run with further, why shouldn't I share that with you? Because at the end of the day, I know that there will be osmosis and something will come back to me. It's as simple as that. When you were talking about having the family involved, you know, they had the young family. I knew the minute I said that, you're talking brooms and all the rest of it, that is going to be honey to a fly. The kids will not resist it. And I thought, well, anything that's going to embrace, that they can be embraced and involved in, is just going to make the day even better. It doesn't need to be perfect. Perfection doesn't exist. But it's the imperfections and all the hiccups and all the kind of wee random things that are going to add to the day that they will always remember, and that will always be with them.
Right.
And so, yeah, so you share things like that because it's the positives that come through. It's like everything else that you do in this role as a celebrant. If you've got skill sets, the ones that you will find, those that can do and those that can do and share. Right. And that's the work with. The people that are scared are the ones that won't share, because they're not confident in their own truths either. Do you know what I mean?
But it's interesting because I think so many celebrants maybe look upon other celebrants as competition. Whereas you I had already obviously got the booking, but even so, you still went and said, here, have this further knowledge to, you know, or further information to add to your knowledge, because of you're so experienced. And I just really want to appreciate you for that. So
thank you. No, I've been trolled. I've had people troll me. Wow. I've got my own website, which is needing so much work done to it at the minute. It's really cute, but it's really needing a lot done. And I got an email from somebody, and yeah, I'm going to be honest, it was somebody who was pretty high up in the humanists, the Scottish humanists. And the email started, your website's been brought to my attention. I've had a lot of complaints about your website. Wow. By other celebrants.
Oh, really?
And I started reading it and I thought, wait a minute, I'm not a member of the Scottish Humanist Association. Yeah. I've got nothing to do with you. I'm not affiliated. And they said, you're making mention about how, you know, you don't do legal ceremonies. It's all symbolic and all this. There are other groups that do it. And the humanists, and she started ranting and raving, giving me chapter and verse of the legal requirements. And under this, you know, legislation, subsection C, W, D, F, and all the rest of it, we do this and all the rest. And I said, so I just sent an email back. I said, well, actually, if you look in the chapter, and I went paragraph by paragraph 5, line 3, I say there are celebrants who can conduct legal marriages because they're part of a recognised body. Yeah. And I said, I did not specify you, because if I specify you as humanists, I'm specifying every other group that could do it. And I'm here to promote my services, not to act as an advertisement for you. Came back. I still object to using the word minister, as in ministering to people's needs.
Well, that's interesting.
So I just went back to her, and the problem is that in a past life, my ex-husband and I had our own PR firm. I had my own NUJ card and all the rest of it, and I thought, do you want to start pushing me? That's fine, okay. Right, we're not going to start having a battle of words here. What I read in my has nothing to do with you, but what I am doing is I'm keeping all your emails. And as far as I'm concerned, this conversation is at an end, but if it comes any further, it's going to get put into the press. Make your mind up.
Yeah, that's
but I googled the person in question, and it's I'm a mother, and I've been doing this, and I'm obviously very active in the PTA, and I'm this, that, and next, and I'm doing this now, and I'm wonderful. And she's somebody that's got too much time in her hands, just trolling with. So I shut her down very nicely, and I've had great fun, and I've still got the emails to this day, and if I feel really annoyed, I find it. There are people, when I've also been in situations where I've gone into some celebrant websites on Facebook, you know, if I was looking for advice.
Yeah.
And I would get these kind of sanctimonious, well, look at your training, you should know it by now. You know, no sharing. And then other people would PM you. And I've actually, you know, send you messages. And what I've done is, over the years, I've whittled out the wheat from the chaff.
Okay.
And the ones that are of worth I've kept.
Right.
And the ones that are just rattling a noise, making an awful lot of noise, I walk away from.
That's the
and
best.
And there's a core of people that I really do resonate with now.
Oh, that's nice.
And that's how they share. And there are some amazing people that do it. And I connected with you. I mean, I've connected with everything you've done. I've been watching you, you know, doing everything, and I've been cheering you because I love what you do. When you went into the celebrancy, I thought, oh my God, this woman is going to shine. And you are happy. And when I saw your photographs, I was really pleased. But
that's so nice.
And that's one of the reasons why, you know, when you see skill and you see passion and you see enthusiasm, what's not to encourage? Do you know?
Sure.
And
well,
exactly.
You know, it's interesting, isn't it? Because even though I would have been annoyed at receiving that email, I would have also thought you are nothing to do with what I do because we're not connected. Therefore, I probably would have been unlikely to reply, because what is that person getting out saying anything? You know, as you said, you weren't saying no celebrant can perform a legal marriage. You were just saying, you know, as then for yourself, for example. So people baffle me sometimes. I love people. I really love people. And at the same time, they utterly baffle me.
But don't you find sometimes that you got the devil in your shoulder that's whispering in your ear and saying, rattle our chain a little bit more?
Well, yeah. I'm probably used to it.
No, but the thing is, you can tell immediately when people are kind of doing their job's worth thing. People that just love cutting down. And this is going to sound really big-headed. It's not. I'm an intelligent person, and I've got a very good grasp of using language.
Right.
So when people start, I can just. I just like pulling them apart. But no, she annoyed me after a while, and I thought, you're boring me. Right, this is the end of this conversation as far as I'm concerned. I'm keeping all the emails, any more of it, and I'm doing one of two things. But one of the things will be, I'm going to release it to the papers.
Right.
Oh,
well, good for you.
Because it's your business. It's going to be. It would actually be her organisation that would be seen in a very bad light.
Be negative. You know? Yeah, sure.
And I'm one of those people. I really play very, very dirty. When people start really pushing me, I always go for the jugular and make sure that everybody sees what they've done.
Right. You're ending it. Right? So you end it completely. Game over.
You got a problem. Guess what? I'm going to sell this to the papers and make some money in the same time as doing it. So
yeah.
Deal with it. You want to bill me? I don't.
Cool. Right. So let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
The very beginning. Who is Gillian Johnston? Right from where were you born?
All right. I was born a couple of centuries ago. No. I was born I'm a child of the 60s. I was born in 1961. I was 59 this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, what can I say? I'm wearing so well.
You look amazing, seriously.
It's a grey hair crown, I don't care. But what happened, I've got a younger sister, and my mother was a nurse, my father was an engineer. He's worked all over the world. We travelled in the happy days. We lived in Singapore in the early 70s.
Cool.
I know, God, if I was this age then, it would have been so much more fun, I can tell you. Going to school. You know, think of it, the end of colonial life, you know, oh God, it was gorgeous. Came back, we lived in Lanarkshire where I went to school in the early 70s, and at that point I was big when I was small. I mean, I was about 5'3" when I was 9.
Wow.
I stopped, everybody else kept on growing, but I was very good at playing rugby, but that's another story.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean, but we came back and I was your typical kind of teenager at that time, kind of overweight, but I had come back with an American accent as well from Singapore, which is very weird.
Yeah.
So I was battling a wee bit of kind of prejudice and all the rest, but we went through and all the rest of it. But I discovered drama. I've had 2 loves in my life: archaeology and drama.
Oh wow.
I know. So if I wasn't, and had I got a B from my Latin higher instead of a C, I would be up to my knees in a peat bog somewhere. You know, go to Edinburgh. But I ended up on my 19th birthday starting the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama in Glasgow in the 1980s. And so my crowd were the first to go through and getting a Bachelor of Arts degree with the teaching, because we were united with Glasgow University as well. And I don't know, I mean, I got to the stage, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. I loved the intellectual, the history and all the rest, again, coming through. And I was this close to doing stunt work, believe it or not. But anyway, long story short, you graduate, you go on to other things, and I started working and met the guy I ended up marrying, and I had my daughter in the late 80s. Went to school. He was a photographer, prize-winning photographer. We had our own PR company, and I learned very hard and very quickly how to work computers, make phone calls, because we, actually learning to cold call people and promote ourselves and his photographic abilities and all the rest of it. So for about a decade we had our own business, and the marriage wasn't very good. It kind of fell apart, and in the early 2000s, early noughties, the marriage went its own way. And basically I was a single parent with a 14-year-old daughter, and basically I promised her 2 things: that she would stay at the school she'd always been at, and she'd keep her horse. It's a long story. She's always had a horse. So there was me, my daughter, our 3 cats, and it was just a case of doing whatever you had to do. Everything, all the dreams and all the rest of it just went on the back. It was to get her through school and all the rest of it. Did it, fantastic. She's got her PhD, she's got her own life, she's shining, she's thriving, she's amazing, so fantastic. She still has the horses, oh God, and I've now got 10 cats, what can I say? But it was one of those things. I don't find that I'm somebody I would consider to be an employable person, if that makes sense. I hate being, you do cold calling, you do work. I'm damn good at what I do, but I've been made redundant on 2 occasions now, and each case is simply been because of office politics and all the rest. It's never been anything to do with me, and I hate that. And what happened was, through the horses, my daughter had her horse at a yard not very far away from here, where we are, and the owner of the yard, fantastic woman, she is a humanist celebrant. And she had started that, and she was a person that actually kind of kept on saying, "You'd be so good at this," and all the rest of it. And the pair of us, I mean, short of jumping on broomsticks and flying around at night, I mean, she's as much of a witch as I am. She's just I mean, we meet each other. I was walking along the road one day. I go a lot walking, and I was rescuing this toad, and she drove up in our car and she said, "Is that for the cauldron?" Oh! You know, it's that sort of thing. So anyway, she inspired me to investigate celebrancy as well.
Okay.
But for me, the humanist route wasn't something that I could follow. Truthfully, for me, I respect it and I respect people's beliefs. I mean, the basic credo of humanism is you're here, your life, when it's over, it's over, but you do the best in your life that you've got the chance to do. And that's absolutely fine. What I find really weird is that a couple of the most famous humanists you can imagine would be Erasmus and, oh God, it was one of Henry VIII's advisors. Oh God, he had the Man for All Seasons. That was who had them. Totally staunch, fundamental religious maniacs, and they were humanists. And you think, what a complete volte-face, a complete about turn. But anyway, long story short, I couldn't really follow the humanists because I'm too spiritual. And I got my training done with the Fellowship of Independent Celebrants. It's down south, and I was the first Scottish celebrant. So yay!
That's where I did my training, incidentally.
Right. Okay. And
I didn't even realize that's where, like, that was a connection we had too. Funnily enough.
I mean, it's unbelievable. But what I found is when I was working, because I was still working for other businesses when I was doing my studies, and I started really working with funerals. And to be honest, I was very fortunate because there was one funeral director who is renowned in this part of the world for not working with celebrants at all.
Oh, wow.
And I went to see them and just took a deep breath. And 2 days later, right, kid, you're on. So yeah, I mean, and I've got a really good connection and I've got a great respect and a lot of time for him. So it's taken a long time to get through to that stage, but it's been great. And it was only really, that was in 2015, I really started working with that. And it's only really been after my daughter finished her PhD and went down south to start pursuing her own life that I really thought now's the time to start doing the weddings. I love doing the symbolic ceremonies. They're great because they can be worked for so many different reasons. People maybe have had to marry in a hurry, you know, maybe in the office, or they've not been in a situation where they could afford to have a wedding. It could be that maybe there's been a situation like they've been maybe a member of the armed forces or something like that, and they just want to get the wedding, the legalities done, and they've done it. Or people maybe years before have got married on a shoestring and they just had to do the same thing, but now they want to celebrate it. So that's the kind of celebrations I've been doing. One of the best ones and one of the finest ones I've ever done was a hand fasting for a couple of witches down at Cambusnethan Priory. They saw me, my Facebook page, I was starting to build it up, and went, you resonate with us so much, we're getting married legally, and they're just having the legal done. They've been together for about 14 years, you know, and then they thought, oh, let's just get married. You know, so a lunchtime wedding and marriage, and then they're having their friends, and it was hand fasting and all the rest of it. And what we did was we incorporated their two goddesses, Hecate and the Morrigan. Wow. And so I went through all that. But down at Cambusnethan, it was such a magical time, and the place, the vibrations you got, and to the extent they kept on saying, you're a bigger pagan than we'll ever be. I'm going, so nice. And anyway, long story short, that's how I got involved with the Scottish Pagan Federation, because some of their high officers were there as well, and they actually sponsored me. So that's where I'm in the situation now, where through them, my application to be able to do legal weddings is being, they're my sponsors. So if I get through, again, there will be a massive reach out to the website, because I will be obviously showing my affiliation to them. But what I love about it is, for me, it's a really liberating situation, because for me, paganism it's not cackling, it's not the broomsticks, it's not the cauldrons. Paganism to me is a kind of a pantheism. And I think that's where it comes from, panthe, you know, a multitude of religion. Because if you think about it, you know, I mean, you think of Christianity, you think of Easter, you think of all the major Christian festivals, they all stem from, you know, the Saturnalia. Easter comes from Astara, you know, Astara, and all the stories come through, and it's all the same with the Scandinavian and the Norse and the Greek, and you think everybody, whether they might not necessarily go into a church or something like that, but you stand on a hillside when the sun sets,
Yes.
or you're on a beach or something like that, you tell me that something doesn't touch you in the core.
Exactly, and it's sacred, isn't it, to stand
It
on
is.
the hillside. It's so fascinating you say that, because my mother was a very strict born-again Christian, and she was driving once and we were going towards the most blissful sunset I have ever seen before or since. And I literally went, oh, wow, look at that. And okay, she was driving, but we were literally going into it like this beautiful vale. And she said, oh yes, that's very nice, like so dismissive. And I looked at her, and in that very moment, I must have been about 14 or something, I thought, you may be religious, but you are not spiritual.
Yeah.
And it's a massive difference, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Robert Burns wrote the best poem, and it comes into my head when I meet people, and I've met so many Kirk Elders and Sanctimonies. Holy Willie's Prayer. Okay. O thou be in the heavens to dwell, send one to heaven and one to tell, all for thy mercy. It's just such a sad. And there's people that they don't enjoy their religion, they endure it. And for me, to have somebody to be able to stand. My daughter, again, she came up with a cracker one day. It was a couple of years ago. We were driving up through Glencoe.
Nice.
And we were just coming up toward the Buccleuch Moor. I mean, I could drive there with my eyes shut. I don't, but I could. And she's just looking around all these amazing hills, the shoulders of the giants, and she's going, Mum, how come there's not a religion built around this?
Oh, wow.
And I said, have you never heard of the Picts? Oh yeah, I said, like all the worshipping the stones and worshipping the mountains. I mean, the mountains have got their names. The Buccleuch Moor is the great shepherd of Etive, and then you've got Buccleuch Beg. Schiehallion is the hall of the king of the fairies. The names tell you that there's a religious context to it.
Wow.
And and I went, Kirsty, have you never heard me? Have you never listened about the Picts and their own, and the Druids and all the Wiccans and all the rest, their nature, their worship of nature? Oh yeah. You have too many brains and not enough sense. Come on. But I mean, we go up to, Mull and Iona are my heart just beats when I got there. If I got to Orkney, I'll never come back. I'll have to be drop kicked back off it. But even in this house where I sit, I have got pebbles that I've picked off places like Columbus Bay or even up in Glencoe. And, it's pebbles that sing to me, and you sit and talk to them and you've got a resonance. For example, when people want to have hand fasting, and it was really sad, it was a friend of mine, she's a humanist, and she went, I don't like doing hand fasting. And I said, why? And she went, well, they're making their vows and you're putting the cords on. She says, but you're undoing the cords, you're undoing the vows when you take the cords back off. And I said, well, why do you take the cords off? Well, it's done. I said, it's not a party piece. Hand fasting stems from a time when man and woman, or men and women, especially in this part of the world, were viewed as equals. In the clans, all lives were important. Life was short, brutal, and all the rest of it. So a female life was every bit as important as a male. They realised you needed to have yin and yang to have the next generation.
Yeah.
And the hand fasting, they'd be bound in front of the community outside, and then they were tied for the day. How they got on for the rest of the day, it's up to them. If you can survive a day like that, you can do anything.
Yeah.
But, that's it. That's why if I do the hand fasting, that's why I said to you, make the knot fast, but give them enough loop to take their hands off. I never undo the knots, and it's up to them to decide when to take the cord off, because it's not my role to do it. And the cords actually also signify the fact that they're not part of your vows. Your vows aren't tied up in your knots. The knots represent it, but the knots also represent the fact that life's finite. If you've got a fabric knot, it will ultimately disintegrate. but the vows stay true in your heart.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I know. What can I say? I'm just so ridiculous.
That's so lovely.
But no, it's picking up all these resonances and stories and all the rest that come through. I mean, jumping the abysm can actually be straight back. I know in America it's got a different feeling because it actually stems from a lot of the slaves. That's the way they would do it. So a lot of people feel it's a bit offensive. But jumping the abysm also was noted in the time of ancient Rome. They swept the hearth, then the groom would pick his latest property up, the wife, and carry her into the threshold because she was his possession. That's why carrying the bride over the hearth and clean sweat. And it's all stories, and you think it's really interesting when people want these stories.
See, and that's why, isn't it great? That's why history, or knowing some history, I'm really interested in origins too. Because I want to know. It's one of the first things I questioned when I started my training was, well, why do we do this? And why do we do that? You know, there's got to be a reason originally why people did that. And there you go, including, you know, the carrying over the threshold, etc. So it is really interesting. A lot of people, I think they just do it regardless. They just go, oh yes, that's cute, and then do it without the meaning. I love depth. You know, exactly. I love the meaning, so it's good to know.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's also very good because sometimes when people want things, you actually sit and talk with them about it. I mean, that's another reason about sharing the quaich or the cook.
As only you can pronounce so perfectly.
No, well, I mean, first of all, if you're going to have whiskey, don't have a metal quaich because metal and whiskey don't work. It's not good.
Mine I bought, I think it was pewter, the one I bought them, and I keep forgetting to ask, how did it taste? I was watching them very carefully. They didn't, you know, they didn't like screw up their face. In fact, they really enjoyed it.
Well, I mean, my couple, my pagan couple, they shared a chalice. They had their own chalice, and he makes his own mead. So they were getting pie-eyed on mead.
Oh, amazing.
That's just not fair. I'm driving. But anyway, but I mean, sharing the quaich, that stems back to the time again of the clans, you know, when in Scottish hospitality, people under the roof were guaranteed safety. That's why in Macbeth, you know, you've got the whole shock of Duncan being murdered by Lady Macbeth. You didn't do it. But what they would do is if a stranger came to the house, the clan chieftain would call for his quaich and it'd be filled with the ushkava. He would drink it first to prove that it was safe, and then he'd hand it to his guests. And he's saying, I'm honourable and I'm trustworthy. And they're saying, I accept that and I respect it. And basically I'm giving you the same respect back. So there was going to be, you know, so you could have an enemy to the nth degree under your roof, but as long as you both shared the quaich, you'd have an honour bound, an honour bond to behave yourselves under the roof. And again, that kind of goes back to the kind of massacre of Glencoe shock, you know, with the Campbells and the, you know, and the soldiers, you know, abusing the hospitality of the McDonald's. So it's all good. Right. But the quaich is a show of protection and trust.
Okay. So
God, I can waffle, can't I?
Oh, but it's amazing. It's so interesting. So the couples that tend to come to you, do they have an interest in natural ceremonies, or are they pagans as a general rule, or what?
I have people that have maybe what I've been targeting just now, obviously, because of the fact that I don't really do the legal marriages at the moment. I've been working with a lot of destination couples, people who have maybe got ties to Scotland through ancestry, and they want to come back to their country. Most of them tend to marry in their own country, and they're coming here and they're doing it. Although people getting married in this country don't have to have residency, as long as they have the paperwork in place, they can do that. It's another story. So I've got a couple that should be getting married on the 1st of January this year, but because of COVID, it's now going back to the end of December next year. And they're from Chicago. She's a history teacher, and she teaches Scottish history.
Nice.
So they're marrying in Chicago. They're having their hand fasting ceremony here because it just resonates. I've got other people who have got a fascination with Outlander. of course, that's all Jamie and all the rest of it. You still have resonance for Braveheart. Beautiful hand passing ceremony in that film. But you've got the Vikings, you've got those people that got this kind of history coming through. Some people are very pagan, and again, I had a couple in touch. She is outright pagan, he's a Buddhist, right. And they wanted to do a merge, and it sounds diametrically opposite, but it's not, because it's still spiritual. So it's just finding the chimes and the things that resonate to make the flow together.
And it's kindness, isn't it? Buddhism and paganism, it's all about being kind.
Yeah, that's what people forget. You know what it is? It's positivity. That's a new word. I've done positivities.
We'll have that.
I'm sure there must be a tablet for that somewhere. But no, I mean, it really is. It's just finding. This is going to sound a tad controversial and all the rest of it, but one of my favourite posts that I ever created was of a shield and a claymore, and I just said, not everybody wants confetti and flowers in their wedding. You know, you don't need to follow the beaten path that everybody else has done. And I tend to have a bit of a screaming horror of people who want to, they start with their own story, but then it gets diluted because they have people say, well, so-and-so did that, and your auntie did that, and this one did that, and that was really nice, and everybody gets diluted. So what I'm really trying to instill in the people that want to work with me is the fact that you have got your own right, and you've got your right to actually have the kick-ass wedding you want, whether it is all natural and standing. I mean, I've got a beautiful picture. I took it down in Doit Gardens down at Stobo, just by Stobo. It's just a tree. When I came home, it's only when I saw it afterwards, there's a green man in it, and I'll post it. I'll send a picture of it. It's amazing. And this is and everywhere I go, I find pictures of green men. And what people say is that people that do find themselves involved, if they want to call themselves pagan, that's another story. But they say it tends to find you, you don't find it. Okay. And if I'm out in the green woods or just in an open space, I'm always very calm. I do Reiki and all the rest of it. And for me, the ultimate calm is to stand in the woods, because the trees, I mean, Yggdrasil is my totem, if you like, the tree of life, that's my totem. Okay. But if people want to have a wedding or their ceremony in the green woods or in an open space, halfway up a hill, knee deep in a loch, let's go for it, because it's your truths. If people want to just have a 5-minute party piece, go somewhere else, because I'm not playing. Or if you want me to do it, you're going to get charged through the nose for it, if that's what you want. If you want to take the mic, but it's against my truths. I don't believe in dictating how people have their ceremony, but you've got to have a resonance, and you've got to have Absolutely. And I know fine well that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to look at me, turn on their heels and run screaming in the opposite direction. I've had people do that to me because they wanted the traditional wedding. I even had an email from a couple, and it was the most surreal conversation I've ever had. We really like what you're doing. My partner is still married, but he's getting divorced, and we're wanting to have you conduct the ceremony. How can we do this just now? I said, well, I'm just doing the symbolic, so you can have that ceremony anytime you like. How dare you diminish the sanctity of marriage this way? I'm going, wait a minute, he's technically still married, and you wanted to get married today, so what's your, and they're really just trying to push it and see where they could go. I'm a staunch Christian, I should be doing X, Y, and Z. This is what they're saying, and you're really disappointing me. And I said, if your faith's that important to you, don't you think you should be speaking to your minister then? And I said, really, this conversation's at an end. I've had other people that have thought, no, you're just too random for us, you're just too, and that's fine. I just don't. There's a phrase that I like, I heard it recently and I like it, you know, there's a lid for every pot. And if you've got a couple that you know you're the right person for them, and you've got a good vibe, it's going to be great. If you're working with people that you can't get through to, you can't communicate with, you're not going to give them the day that they deserve. You're never going to do it. You're just going to stand up, and they may as well just have somebody just reeling off something that's, they deserve to be with somebody who's better for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why you've got a good relationship. If I've got people that I know would work better with somebody else that I know, I would say, look, speak to them.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good. It's like puppies. I always think the puppy chooses the person. And I don't feel it's a mistake the people that come to, that find us, that resonate. I never think that's a mistake. I always believe, the right person will find you, or the right couple will find you.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's the same thing, I mean, it's even, I would say it's not the same with funerals, because that's a different thing. I go very neutral for funerals. I don't put myself in it in any way at all, unless you have pagan people wanting to have pagans, and you can do that way. Sure. But when it comes to weddings, elopements, vow renewals, you've got to really be able to work with couples and really know where their story is and be able to actually engage with them. And if they're going down a line that they're wanting to have this, that, and the next thing that is not right for you, you can say to them, look, I'll do it for you if you really want me to work with you. But I think somebody could be better for you. And if they turn around and say, no, we trust you, then that's fine. I'm all in. I'll do it for you. I'm not going to just turn around. I'm not going to be, it's too exhausting to try and be one size fitting everyone. And I know that I'm never going to be the person that's going to have the how can I put this tactfully, the Barbie weddings.
Okay.
No, the kind of all,
that's fine.
All frothy soft flat and things. I mean, I'm the one that's going to be there dragged through the hedge backwards with a claymore behind me going, right, come on then. You're done. You want to climb up, stand on the top of a turret of a castle, crumbling castle or something, that's fine. You want to be knee deep in a burn, that's fine. But if you're wanting to be really, really pretty and all the rest of it, there's other people that can really do that for you, this high-end bling. Unless you want to have a high-end Viking bling, in which case, that's me. I'll be there. I'll get Clanadonia up to ramp you in, go for it. But
I love it, and I love your honesty, because it's funny, because I straddle both worlds. I love the I'm not so far gone that I'm not a pagan. I'm a spiritualist at heart, really. But so I love including the connection to spirit. But of course, I love the outdoors. I love nature. I've always had horses. So much your daughter. But I love glamour, and I love sparkles and sequins and ever. So I would definitely do both sides. And I love that you honor yourself. You say, this is me. I will do that. However, I will charge for that, because it's not really who I am. And yet, if you want an all-natural wedding, I'm definitely who you want.
That being said, though, I do have the 6-inch heels, and I can rock them. I do have the 6-inch Gucci heels.
I bet you can. I've got a sense that you can rock anything, darling.
Oh, baby. But no, I mean, the thing is that, you can wear the 6-inch heels and still go around rattling a cauldron.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, you give me somebody that's wanting to have some singing bowls, or have light and have candles and have fairy lights and all the rest of it, and I'll be sitting going, namaste. I'll be going for it. You can have high-end pagan. You can. It's just I prefer people. I'm more. How can I put this? I don't like being a hypocrite. If that makes sense. So if people are wanting to have me, is because they know that if I put the cords on their hands, there's a story behind it. If we're using the salt ceremony to sanctify the place, it's done properly. It's not a party piece. If you're going to have the broom, if you're going to have the candle ceremony, it's not just a photo op. You know what I mean? if you're making a candle, if you're making a unity candle, you know, 2 candles, his spirit, her spirit, and the light spirit, or even if it's like your couple, that your family the other day, if the children were older, they could even have like wee tea lights to bring in, so you've got a family binding as well. There's a power in that. It can happen in the grandest of halls as well, you know, the power's got to be there, but you've got to turn around and tell people. And that's the one thing that I would say, you know, you said about the brother-in-law taking photographs the other day. You should have been, I'm sorry you didn't have a chance to be able to speak with him. He should have given you the chance to give you a chance to give him some guidance. If it's an informal situation where everybody's just taking pictures, what I always do is stand up and say, right, this is a sacred space we're making here. You're creating it. Please honour it and don't break into it just now. This is to be held, and you know, for a couple to make their vows. It's sacred, it's special. Move around it, and I try and give them a background story about how the ceremonies were held in the open. Even once upon a time, down in England just now, you still have to be married legally undercover.
Yeah, yeah.
Once upon a time, legal marriages could only be ratified in public. You know, they'd stand outside the church doors so that everyone could see it. Okay. Obviously, well, again, it's for a reportage as much as anything. But you're here to witness. You're not here to intrude. So this space is sacred. And it doesn't matter whether you're standing in the middle of a grassy glade or standing in the middle of the People's Hydro. You've got this space that's...
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, that's when you can turn around and put on your full granny weather wax look, and if you turn around and say, you'll get zapped, and I promise you won't like it.
It's so interesting because I created a sacred space the other day, and I asked.
I loved it.
The children helped me find sticks and twigs to put around a circle, and then, you know, blessed it, and I had insects. And there was only one passerby, and they had a dog, a big bounding, very happy dog, and he came bounding in, but he stopped before the space and turned around, wag, and ran away again. It was so special. So even the dog sensed that. It was so sweet.
That's fantastic. People don't believe it, but you know, there is a lot of power. We all have power inside us. It's just recognizing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that you told the space anyway. I know you told the space no matter what you were doing.
Thanks. So tell me, how can people find you and get a hold of you?
Well, with a divining rod, with a very big rock. Yeah, okay. I can be found on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and half-heartedly on Pinterest. I go under the name Scots Celebrant, and I've got my very own little logo. It's a combination of a Celtic knot and a heart, which is rather sweet.
That's nice.
Gillian with a G at scotscelebrant.com is all one word. How else do you find me? Telepathy, cry. Yeah, I mean, no, honestly, I'm trying to push my marketing to get things up and really improve it, because my biggest problem has been, and I put my hand to it, I've done some training with some remarkable celebrants to really ramp up my marketing in the past 2 or 3 years. And I can't say, you know, I can't thank them enough. I spoke to you about Jennifer and you know, but my problem was that the training was geared to a different type of celebrancy from what you have in Scotland, actually, believe it or not. It's for people who acknowledge the fact that they'll have a marriage in a registrar's and then have their wedding with a celebrant, whereas in Scotland you can have it done with one person. So you're battling a different type of marketing. But what I was finding was I was actually diluting who I was and my brand, my style of celebrancy, to fit in a more homogenized style.
Right.
With, you know, the pink, the flowers, the gypsophilia, the sweet, happy ever after. And that's not where I'm coming from. And so I'm kind of pulling back from that in a way because I'm really focusing and pulling myself back. But yeah, you can find me at scotscelebrant.com. You can find me at Gillian Johnston on Facebook, with my Scots. It tells you all who I am, Scots Celebrant. You can find me at Gillian_Scots Celebrant on Instagram, and you've got Pinterest going along the same ways. I'm available to be shouted at, Ouija board and all the rest of it. I love having arguments with people. I love debating with people. I love people to actually pick my brains and really get a feel for who I am before they make any decisions.
Nice.
I don't believe pushing people.
Yeah.
But when you have me on your side, what you're going to have is somebody who's going to be fearlessly defending you and supporting your vision.
That's so nice. Love
no,
that.
but you've got to. I mean, it's the same, and that's the one thing I would say about funerals as well, is that people come away with their own vision of what they want for their wedding. But my wedding, I mean, I was married, and I'm here to tell the tale. I mean, I had a minister and a priest in the wedding. I mean, talk about me. But I was a third party at the wedding. It was really? I was totally disengaged from it all the way through. You know, that was it. You know, it was just
sad.
It was, you know, it was just kind of big deal. So basically, I don't want that to be for people who have celebrating their wedding with me. So if people say, I'd really just like to have a quiet wedding on a lochside, you know, a few people and all the rest. Obviously, just now that's kind of what's happening because we've got no choice. But if they turn around and say, well, I've been told I really should have this and I should be having that. Do you really want that? Well, okay, how do we help you get the words to do it? And I'm actually thinking about creating kind of a membership group for couples who are feeling overwhelmed, you know, so they can work together, kind of a badass group, so they can all give each other the strength and the courage to stand up, actually have their own strength to go through. And you'll be involved, so don't worry about it, you're getting quiet now.
Because wedding days are ruined by families and expectations and what has been a tradition.
And one-upmanship.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, good point. So how do you know that couples have got you really on their side? And I really can feel that actually, that you would genuinely be there.
I mean, I'm only 5'4" in a good day. I'm about 2'6". So I do have a kind of a Rottweiler mentality, you know, to protect people. I've got a very strong defense mechanism for my tribe, if that makes sense. Yeah, sure. If people have me on as, you know, backing them up, if they come to me and say, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling stressed, I've got, you know, I've been pushed to do this. Is it something you really want to do? But I've got to do this. Okay, let's see if we can, you know, not sit and talk to them, because by knowing them means that they know that they can actually absolutely trust me to be there for them all the way through as well. One thing I will say, people don't realise just how much work a celebrant puts into building a celebration. For you'll be aware now just how much work you had thrown at you to do the wedding that you had last week. It was a lot of work, you know, and when you're talking to people, you know, you can get to a situation that you may have people who are not getting married for about a year, maybe 18 months down the line, maybe even further, and they'll still, you know, you're there to talk with them all the way through, you know, and you've got to be able to draw boundaries and say, look, I'm here for you, but right now you've got to remember, I'm talking with you. I can't give you all my attention just now because I'm dealing with others, but I've got your back all the way through. So if you've got any questions, it's really urgent, I'll help you. But you've got to give me space. But when you get closer to the time and you're able to give them more time, you can then say to them, okay, right, what's your issues? What are we doing? Where are we going? And you can always keep in touch with them and ramp up. And that's one of the reasons why I want to build up this membership group as well, so that people are going down the line and they are feeling that from the start, we're getting engaged. Right, you've got to do this, and you've got to do that, and you need to have this. And oh my God, did you see that? Right, we've got to get that done. We've got to do this, and everybody else is taking over. You can give them a kind of support group within other couples who can enter and help them fight back and get techniques and the rest of it. So that's the cunning plan.
Oh, well, lovely. And I'm going to hunt and stalk your website afterwards. And then when are you going to hear about whether you've been accepted into the Pagan Association and can
well, I'm on the Scottish Pagan Celebrant Directory at the moment, but they are, being pagans, they are wonderful people, but it's all voluntary and they don't actually have an online directory.
Oh, really? Wow.
So yeah, I kind of think maybe I should do that.
Yeah, they could offer your services. You're good with
I know, but the thing is, the actual co-director of it, she's based up in Orkney, so that's another reason if I got to Orkney to speak to her, I'll never come home. We'll be getting it. Oh, wait.
For a visit, no, and I'll drag you back. How about that?
Yeah, I know, that's it. It's the GGs for a double G. But no, it's all down in, it's all in the hands now of the National Registrars of Scotland. They've got to decide whether I'm worthy or not. So I'm hoping that they'll turn and say yes. That's me touching wood.
Yeah, good luck.
I know, so I'm hoping, but you know, at the moment, what we've got to do as well, yes, I'm terminally impatient, but what we've got to remember as well, all the registrars in Scotland, all the registrars throughout the UK are under a hell of a lot of pressure, okay? Because they're not only dealing with weddings, they've got to register every birth, every death throughout this country. So they've got an awful lot of paperwork. When COVID first struck in Scotland, when the lockdown started, the pressure on registrars to actually be able to ratify and register deaths was unbelievable, and the amount of hoops they had to go through. So you've got to prioritise things. Weddings at the moment, they're triaging that. So people in the case of terminal illness, or maybe in the forces being sent off to be, you know, services, or you know, urgent cases for weddings, they're going through first.
Sure.
So that's okay. But that just means that I've got to kind of remind myself that my request to be ratified on a scale of 1 to 100 from the registrar's point of view is probably 2 if it's lucky, you know. So I'm sitting there going, just have to stir the cauldron a little bit.
Exactly. Deep breath. Go and find your friends, the toads. Oh, brilliant. Well, I look forward to it, and let's talk again once you have been ratified, because I'm sure it will happen. I have absolutely both.
It sounds nicer than being certified, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's true. Good point.
I'm certified.